Welcome to Comic Wars. Think of the show as Fight Night, but without the mess of actual combat. Data will speak for itself before the outcome, but in any case, it doesn't. If it doesn't speak for itself, we will break all of it down in the outcome, which takes place at the end of the show. Without further ado, let's dive right into our first editor. So here, I know I just switched this one. It's really frustrating. Here we go. So this is episode 3. It's Alucard versus Blade. As you guys know, and there is no guest tonight, so there won't be any guesses or anything like this, but just speculating on just what we've got here. Just want to throw this out there. If you guys got any guesses on who will win this fight, this comic war, I would just assume right off the bat, you got Dhampir and you got both are vampire hunters, but one specifically has narrowed down the way to kill vampires in the most efficient manner, which is Blade. If there would be any guess, that would be general guess right off the bat, I believe, on most people's minds. So let's just go lay that out there with what we've got. I've already got some answers here, and we're going to start breaking some things down, such as the background. So our first character here, our first competitor, is Alucard. His real name is Adrian Tepes. He is the son of Count Dracula, or Vlad Tepes, or Tepesh, however you want to pronounce it. He's approximately 566 years old. That would be as of right today, but he does retain anywhere between 18 and 20-year-old appearance. He's approximately 5 foot 11 inches, and he weighs at approximately 175 pounds. He is a full-time vampire hunter, as he doesn't need to consume food. Well, depending on the source you've got, he doesn't really need to consume anything per se, but it depends on where you're getting the lore, which video game, if you're going off of any of the content Konami has released, such as the Castlevania show. I'm not really sure if you would just call it a cartoon or an anime, but either way. But his area of operation, there's two areas. So there's Wallachia, which is the modern-day Romania, and Japan. And that's just because Castlevania itself can transport itself wherever it so wants to, at kind of the beck and call of the Dark Lord himself, which is none other than Count Dracula. We are going to kind of describe some differences between Count Dracula of the Castlevania universe versus the Count Dracula of the Marvel universe as well. As for his personality, he is a pessimistic guy. Very, very level-headed, though, and very, very calculating. And he's considered to be at least of genius intellect, if not far surpassing it. Just a little miscellaneous information about this guy. He has access to the Belmont family monster hunting vault, and has had access for a long period of time to all of his father, Count Dracula's, libraries and scientific equipment, and he did briefly train with Trevor Belmont and Sypha Belnades, also Grant Dynast, but we have yet to meet him in the show. But in the video games, he did travel alongside them as well. So he did have some kind of experience with them on fighting night creatures, or monsters, if you will. So there's a little bit of background on him. As for some of the feats he's got strength comparable to that of Count Dracula. And I know there's a little bit of a typo there, but if you look at it, he's got two different types of strength here. Physically lifting, he's capable of lifting tons. of weight. I mean, literally tons. Not just like a single, not just a couple. No, tons. We don't have an exact weight, but we do know that he can physically lift tons. As for telekinetically moving things, we've seen that he can kind of telekinetically, if not magically, move things. He's shown that he is capable of even transporting Castlevania itself. So, things to take in consideration here: he is that powerful magically and physically, very, very powerful strength-wise. But he's also capable of slicing through very, very durable foes, big stone behemoths and giants with ease. He's been able to go and cut directly through very, very durable monsters, ones that can thicken their hide and things like this. He's through sealed weapons with ease as well. But as for his durability, he's taken hits from Dracula himself, and this guy is very, very devastating. We're talking, I mean, he can destroy Castlevania in one blow. So being able to tank hits from something like that caliber, one in itself is quite durable. He's also been able to tank hits from the Vampire Killer, which is used by Konami. Just to kind of put that in perspective, that hitting vampires, it's a holy weapon. It will kill vampires when it hits them. There are a few exceptions. Dracula getting hit by things like this, he would take quite a few hits, but it would eventually be able to kill him as well. As for being able to see this, you get to see this from the video. It doesn't actually hurt Dracula. However, if you really want to compare it to the show, he's never, as far as I can recall, or from what I've been able to see, he has not been able to strike Dracula full on with I believe never seen him very strike. But he's also survived blows from the Time Reaper, who is capable of destroying the entire Castlevania multiverse with just a single strike. If you wanted to erase it, you could. However, this is where you're getting into a special type of durability, which is he is chaotic. This is something that can change fate. Chaotic beings in the Castlevania universe they don't have their fate set in stone. They kind of make their own fate as they go. So this makes him almost like narrative rewrite. He's not affected by a single narrative. Now we know there's other humans that also have chaotic nature as well, which means their stories never, it can't just be foreseen. So they work outside of that. So this says something. He's able to go and tank something that really destroy the entire multiverse. To be able to tank them and survive. He can also survive in the vacuum of space. It's another part I should have included as well. Him just with his vampiric lineage, he can survive in space. As for speed and agility, he can move quick enough to create afterimage as he moves through the battlefield. Easily transform between Dhampir, Wolf, Bat, and Mist/Poison Mist within a very short time frame during combat. This is seen in Castlevania show, or Netflix show, where he just decimates an army of night creatures single-handedly. Just transforming back and forth, going between the wolf to the bat to Dhampir to, just transforming, just in and out real quick, just dodging and weaving, if you will, but using transformations. And he's also able to, during these transformations, to catch weapons and break them. So something to keep in mind as well. Another thing to note is, due to his vampiric lineage, this does not mean all vampires across all different universes and all this are capable of this, but he does not actually tire at all. As for his combat capabilities, this is where he is going to have a shorter area than Blade to some degree, and that is just because of his martial prowess here. He's a skilled martial artist. I put plural on accent there. But he specializes in swordplay, preferring wielding a sword and shield. So take that in consideration. So he likes to have the offense and defense at the same time. He can be able to use that defense to go into an offense and vice versa. Alright, as for his other feats he's got, so this is where he gets into ingenuity. So he's a spellcaster. Very, very powerful one at that. His spells, a lot of it leans more kind of on the demonic side of things. Things that only the Depeche lineage has access to. For instance, he's got Hellfire, which is more of a demonic magic. And basically, he can teleport, and then upon completing a teleportation, or landing, if you will, Alucard, the caster, launches 3 fireballs together in the direction that the caster is facing. Goodness, there's lots of typos on this one. But he also has another variant of it, which is called Dark Inferno. It does the same thing, teleports, and upon landing, he launches a more powerful variant of Hellfire spell, which launches 2 large, dark, magical orbs at enemies. They're described as almost being meteor-like. When you look at them, they almost look kind of like an orb with chaotic magic inside. Very, very wild magic that's it's destructive. So it's not just fun, it's just that's gonna hurt a lot. It also has access to the spell Soul Steal, which steals the souls of nearby enemies, damaging without killing enemies, and converting all those souls into life essence, which heals the caster or Alucard. He also has access to spell Dark Metamorphosis, which cloaks the caster in red or that, if in contact with blood, heals the caster. He can also summon a spirit or Petra spirits, which gets 1 or 4 spirits depending on the level of the spell to attack enemies for a period of time. He also has access to 5 different familiars: the Bat, the Demon, the Ghost, the Fairy, and the Sword. The Fairy is notorious for healing, but the other ones they all attack from behind. There was not a whole lot of data until the last time. But the Sword is by far the most powerful one, as it is super strong, and if leveled up to its maximum potential, actually becomes a weapon, one of Alucard's strongest weapons. They can actually use. As for his transformations, as we spoke about earlier, he can transform into a bat, a wolf, or poison mist. And the poison mist is poison, so keep that in mind. It does hurt things. And he can use this to actually travel for attacks. He can use this to travel through grates and the different types of environments naturally. And he also has a heightened healing factor. He's been seen healing from all sorts of different kinds of grates. So, something to consider. As for his equipment, he's bringing to the battle. He's bringing the Alucard sword, which is a one-handed longsword. The one shown in this image here is not Alucard sword per se. That is a different representation of one, but it's a long sword, and long swords are quite long. So, but he also has the Alucard shield, which is a very durable shield made of an unknown metal. We're not really sure what it is, but it's been able to withstand all sorts of damage, no problem, without even nicking it. And he also comes equipped with the Alucard mail, which is extremely durable, holy mail. So this is something that vampire kind could not really touch. Night creatures shouldn't be touched, as it'll hurt the crap out of them. But it's capable of enduring attacks even from Dracula himself. And when wearing it, Alucard receives enhanced resistances against fire, lightning, and ice magic. And he also comes equipped with the Twilight Cloak, which is just an extremely durable, fancy cloak. And then he also has some other sub-weapons, if you will, that he comes with, just for fighting the night creatures. Now he only is ever seen with one at a time, but just because there's one item in particular that would just end the fight with pretty much anything instantly, almost. But we're going to go through them. He's got the throwing knives, which they seem to they have infinite distance. They just keep going in a straight line when he throws them. He comes with holy water, which when thrown on the ground, it leaves a trail of fire going toward the direction that it was thrown. He comes with throwing axes, which go in more of an arcing fashion, but we can see from the cartoon and from different iterations of the throwing axe itself, it is a weapon that can be thrown in multitude of different directions. And there's a holy ashes, which on hitting anything touching it is going to, it burns them. It's just thrown right in front. Alucard. Then he's got the holy Bible, which just goes around him. Gives him kind of some holy protection, if you will, but it doesn't reduce damage or anything. It just hits anything that comes within. There's the holy cross, which acts just like a boomerang. It can go in whatever direction he throws it, and then come backwards and catch it and use it again. Now we come with the most powerful of his arsenal, which it doesn't affect everything, such as bosses. It doesn't boss type enemies, really powerful enemies, it would not stop. But they also come with some form of quantum distortion resistance. So, unless his opponent comes with that would end the fight within a second. Quite literally 3 seconds to be exact. So it only would take with me very soon. Then he also comes equipped with a rebound stone, which just keeps bouncing like 6 times a minute. And then it just goes away. And then there's the Ugunia, which is just a lightning bolt that can strike enemies that are within us close proximity. Like I said, we're not going to be coming with all this into the fight against Blade because, well, A, stopwatch ends the fight instantly. Comes in, stopwatch, ends. So that's not really a fair one, but for clarity's sake, if that is in a lineup at all, Alucard wins it. It's almost like it's any enemy. He wins instantly. So, alright. But let's get into his competitor, which is Blade. His real name is Eric Brooks. He is approximately 93 years old. He is 6 foot 2 inches tall, and he weighs approximately 180 pounds. He is a full-time vampire hunter as well. His area of operation is New York City, but he has ventured out to Japan and other areas throughout the world. Specifically, he likes to be enjoyed hunting down Frost and Count. Those are his 2 big foes that he has down, but he also has hunted Morbius the Living Vampire as well, who is a scientific-based, not supernatural-based vampire. As for his personality, they're roughly the same here, except he's just very level-headed, calculating, highly intelligent, and he has a huge instinct, which we'll get into in a bit. This can play a huge factor, both positive and negative. Now, Blade, you're going to see, has a lot of stuff here. So his strength, biggest one, maximum lifting was roughly about 1 ton. And he was capable of beheading, I don't know why it says beating, but beheading 2 highly durable villains, Apocalypse namely, that guy's very, very durable, tanking hits from all sorts of different opponents, Mutant, Ultron, all this, I mean, taking hits that should have one-shot anybody. And he just tanks them, no problem. But he was beheaded by Blade. But it was Apocalypse, and not just to go and just add insult to injury, but Count Dracula himself, who was using Apocalypse as a as a shield, if you will. And that was at the same exact time with his sword. Pretty impressive feat there. We will get into the difference between Count Dracula in a second, but the durability, well, he's similar healing factor of, but lesser than Wolverine, who has got instantaneous healing. Tanked hits from supernatural powerhouses such as Count Dracula and Morbius. And these guys hit at a greater level than Blade can lift. So that should say how much he can tank, quite a bit. And his speed and agility, he's capable of running and moving at speeds greater than even the finest human athletes. His agility, balance, and bodily coordination are enhanced to levels that are beyond the natural physical limits of the finest human athlete. His musculature generates less fatigue toxins during physical activity than the musculature of an ordinary human. He can exert himself at peak capacity for several hours before fatigue begins to impair him. All right. So that says a lot about what he can do. So this guy, we're talking like superhuman by far. But that's only, he's just above peak. Okay, so keep that in mind. As for his combat capabilities, he is a master martial artist. His favorites to use are Kung Fu, Capoeira, Shotokan Karate, Wing Chun, Eskrima, Silat, Shaolin Kung Fu, Kenjutsu, and Tumpai. He's also an expert swordsman and an expert marksman. So this is gonna give him a clear edge because range. He has range on Alucard. Is it enough though? That's where it's gonna differ. For his ingenuity, he's got enhanced supernatural acute senses. And we've seen that he can make some adjustments on the fly, but he's just typical. He goes against vampires primarily and monsters. So he's got that lore that he already knows how they're going to fight. Is he going to be able to do that against like regular foes? Well, we're not looking at a regular foe here. We're looking at a supernatural foe. So he has information on this type of opponent. Okay. As for his equipment, he comes with a tempered titanium katana, a submachine gun, a pistol, wooden daggers or stakes, EMP grenades, UV grenades, and throwing glaives, which, just like the Holy Cross, they will return to him. Okay. That's what we got on Blade. So what are your guys' thoughts so far? Does Blade have what it takes to take down Alucard? Well, we've looked at everything, the background details and feats. Okay, so if we're looking at their data analysis, the big things to go and take away from this are going to be, so we're looking at the strength feats. So if we look at Alucard here, his strength is comparable to Count Dracula. This is where we have to compare Draculas. The Dracula in Marvel is actually weaker than the Castlevania Dracula on a lot of different levels. When it comes to durability, Count Dracula can come back, and he often does, in both universes. Except the one in Castlevania is very similar to how Darkseid works in DC. He is an essence. He is essentially, you can kill him, he will come back every time. There's no way to stop him from coming back. Now we've seen this because there's ways to stop him coming back, but he'll find another way. It's how this always works. And he'll do so through followers, manipulating them in the shadows, little whispers, if you will. So he's always got a way to come back. Count Dracula from Marvel Comics, a little harder. It's usually time, and even then, he's got to have sometimes even people bring him back. But he can't always just come back on his own like Dracula can. Dracula's source of his power is chaos itself. He's not affected by fate. That's where it comes back to this. While the Count Dracula from Marvel doesn't have this type of convenience. They could go and kill each other, and what happens? Castlevania, Dracula comes back. Marvel Comics, not necessarily. As when it comes to strength, speed, and all this, Count Dracula from Marvel isn't anywhere even remotely in the same league as Castlevania's. As for durability, I believe that Dracula from Castlevania he's less durable, as in he can be damaged a lot easier to some degree, because he's been able to be damaged by some simple things as well. And we're talking people that aren't even near Alucard's level damaged him pretty severely. So that says something. As for durability, which is the next one, Alucard obviously has this one, because Blade can't tank multiverse-ending things. Now, he has a similar factor to that of Wolverine, so he could tank some hits, for sure, but multiverse-ending, no. Because even something like the zombie virus from Marvel Zombies turns him into a zombie. While it wouldn't with Alucard. He cannot be turned. There's a lot of reasons for that, but he's just got all sorts of different kinds of resistances that are just ridiculous. It's not even worth going into, because winner of this fight, no matter what, is not going to be in the bigger lineup. That'll be we're going to go in. We've got a little curveball we're throwing in there for that, but that's just because between these two characters, they can basically take out the rest of the fighters or the rest of the other competitors with ease. Sort of. Yeah, basically. So, so durability, Blade obviously doesn't have this because he's just got a healing factor, and he's been able to tank some hits, but tanking these hits from Count Dracula, this one it would be the difference of tanking a lightweight and a heavyweight hits. And we're not just talking with just technique. We're talking same technique, same level of skill, but different weight classes, with weight being thrown into the punches. The weight of the heavy class, the super heavyweight, which is really what it would be, would hit much harder. So we're not looking at that little of a difference here, because that's just a fraction. We're talking like it's almost like the difference between getting hit by like a regular boxer versus that of like a truck going like 50 miles an hour. I believe it would be a better comparison on sheer strength and capabilities. That's how much harder Dracula hits from Castlevania. It's pretty ridiculous. As for speed and agility, Blade can't even compare. It's not even a comparison. You're talking somebody that can literally run. And I know I just didn't have enough time to really break this down, but there's the sheer speed of being able to create an after image is ridiculous. If you create a literal after image of oneself, you're going ridiculously high speed. We're talking like, I believe that breaks the sound barrier, if I'm not mistaken. And like I said, I would love to go and break that down for everybody, but just off the top of my head, that's what this comes down to. It's sheer speed doesn't even compare. So Usain Bolt isn't going to be able to compare to Blade, and Blade's not going to be able to compare to Alucard here. Not even a good fight right on speed. It's unfair. However, Blade's notorious for his ingenuity when it comes down to, well, because he has the lore, he knows how to handle these guys pretty handedly, and guys that can even get the upper hand on him, he's been able to actually get an upper hand on them, using themselves against themselves, more or less is how that works. Okay. You get into the ingenuity, this is where it's kind of ridiculous, because Alucard's got all sorts of different kinds of things he can use. But essentially, he can teleport around, throw fireballs. He can throw dark, chaotic magic at him. He can go and... If there's a soul nearby, which he's got a soul, it would damage him if it doesn't kill him right off the bat. But he's able to sustain some pretty heavy hits, so this probably wouldn't kill him, but it would hurt him a lot. And then he would just heal him. So even if Alucard were to go and take a few good, solid hits from Blade, he could just use Soul Steal, and all of a sudden now he's healed. Not to mention he's got Dark Metamorphosis, which we do know that Blade bleeds. Because Blade bleeds, Alucard can heal. Now they both have blood. These are Dhampirs, so they do have human. Well, they're blood. They have blood. Essentially, what it comes down to. So they could both take advantage of that. However, we're looking at Dark Metamorphosis. He uses this now. He could just punch Blade. He bleeds. He heals. He cuts him. He heals. So now you're talking on top of a healing factor, increases your healing factor. And he's got a couple different ways. He's got a utility belt of, I'm going to heal no matter what. Then he can also summon spirits to attack, and he's got range with this. Not a great range, but he has range. And then he's got familiars, which also have range. They're going to fly at him, so yes, you've got Blade could easily just go and, we need to go kill these things, right? We need to go kill these, the fairy, the ghost, the demon, the bat, and the sword, right? Just blast right through him. So you'd have to actually be able to go and blast through his familiars. He's got 5 familiars, and he can switch with them at any given time. He can also transform. Blade is threatened to go and transform into a swarm of bats. I think he said that to Deadpool, but he never did. So there's that thing. We've never seen him actually be able to go and wield vampiric powers like that. But we do know that Alucard can indeed do that. If you look at from the show, he actually can turn into a swarm of bats. But he's very, very quick to transform, so utilizing this to go and speed around the battlefield is actually something he does do. And if he's being shot at, and he notices this, and he can always turn to mist and just avoid it. He does go and move at a much slower pace. That's okay, because he'll just transform into other things. And once again, he has a heightened healing factor. He's got plenty of ways to go, and he'd have to literally be one shot. It's the only possible way, but we all know he's got, based on his feats from up here, he's going to be able to just catch things, if you will. He wants to throw his glaive, he'll catch it. He wants to shoot, he can probably move out of the way. I mean, be able to move that speed and be able to avoid things, that's all it takes. So he would have to absolutely Blade would have to get a surprise attack against Alucard. And we're not even done yet with that. Then you've got Alucard's equipment. He's got throwing knives, he can just throw those across the battlefield. Throwing axes, yeah, he's got limited range on that, but he can throw those across the battlefield. But he's also going to be able to tank some hits. Now, technically, we could have said he comes with a dragon helm. It comes with that. But if you look at, really, is he wearing the mail? Debatable. Now, usually a mail is going to be pretty bulky and all this, so probably not. But based on this is what he comes with. So, throwing knives is more than enough to be able to go and have range as well. And we know that he has infinite range with throwing knives, so pretty crazy. At least very, very long distance. So this could be, when it comes down to range, he has almost equal footing. But he's also not like an expert knife thrower. When he throws it in one direction, it goes perfectly in that one direction. We don't know how far the knives go because we don't really have any we don't have any data on this. Not from the shows, not from the video game. Nothing. We don't have any exact data on how far his throwing capabilities are. All right. So really, when you're looking at this so far, it becomes pretty apparent, right? But well, let's look at a few other things. So we're looking at weakness here. This is where you get into the obscure things. Blade has regular weaknesses, right? Can you shoot him in the head and he could die? Technically. You'd have to hit him with carbonadium. So if your bullet's made of carbonadium, you now take away his healing factor. That's what carbonadium does. However, neither of these guys bring carbonadium to the battle with them. What they do bring is they have their weaknesses, which is the big ones we want to watch out for. If there was a running water, like a river or something like this, Alucard could technically be beaten if he fell into it. Now, based on the video games alone, we know they can't. Alucard can't swim. He can jump from the water, but he just sinks like a rock. Now, we also know that other characters in Castlevania also sink like a rock. Richter Belmont, the Belmont clan in general. So I'm not sure if this is something like the case from Monkey D. Luffy, where devil powers, essentially, and this is why they sink. But I digress. He is weak to running water, and he also hates his own existence. Like, to a huge degree. To the point of, like, he has some very, very dark thoughts about himself. And he feels a lot of guilt because he's had to kill his dad multiple times. That would definitely do it to anybody. So, not to mention, he also witnessed his mother's death at the hand of humans who accused her of being a witch. So there's all sorts of things. I mean, technically speaking, did he actually witness it? That's the thing. If you go into the lore, he has memory of it. You go from the Symphony of the Night lore, he has memory of him actually showing up when she was burning at the stake. In the show, they don't really show that he showed up, but it's alluded to in the intro. So, take it as you will. As for Blade, he has to have a serum at least within 24 hours, and if he gets too badly damaged, he needs to use it because his healing factor, for whatever reason, it takes time to heal himself. And depending on the lore you go off of the movie lore with Wesley Snipes, then yes, it takes, like when he takes damage, he has to use the serum to actually be able to heal, and he has to heal usually overnight. Where normally it would take somebody else weeks, if not months, to survive, to fully recover from damage that he'd be sustaining. He's able to do that overnight. He's got to consume human blood or his serum. And he carries all sorts of that with him. Tons and tons of it just in case. So, what do you guys think? Who holds this fight right in their hands? Is there any chance that one side pulls out against the other 100% of the time? Or is it more kind of a 50-50? What do you guys think? I'll tell you what. This fight, if you haven't guessed it already, very, very one-sided. Me, I was thinking, this is going to be a much closer fight. No, just like last fight between Anti-Man and Crow. Crow held that fight right in his hands, no problem. It's much the same. Alucard has got the edge in every scenario. Only scenario he will not necessarily have the edge is if they were fighting inside the ocean. Where all that would have to happen is Blade, we can assume swims. In the comic, I believe there's a few issues where he swims. Alucard, we don't see a whole lot of proof of him swimming. In fact, I don't see any swimming. But that's fine. But what gives Alucard the exact edge? If I had to say everything, it's two things. But just one of them is all he really needs to go and settle this. And that is his speed. he easily outpaces Blade without even trying. Is Blade going to be able to go and pick him off? If he didn't have the healing factor and things like this, there's a chance at that point that Blade could, but because he has that durability, nah. Tanking hits that's multiverse ending, but then being able to just get damaged by Dracula. There's a lot of things going into that as to why he was able to take that type of hit, but won't die from a blow from the Time Reaper that would literally end the multiverse. It comes down to what that's doing. Are we talking... You're still talking a lot of energy on what that would be exerting. And then you're also looking at what Dracula's trying to do. Now, Dracula did it. Could he kill Alucard? Yes, he can. Could the Time Reaper kill Alucard? Yes, he can. But the point is, Alucard's durability is not to mention. He's also recovered from all those things. And still able to fight even after taking hits like that. So, for those that are wondering also about next week, or sorry, not next week, our next episode, which is on Friday. This upcoming Friday is going to be another fight between two characters based on the same character. In fact, one of them, it's not even just a parody of them, that is the character. We're going to be doing another comic battle between Mythos Imprint and Crowworks Comics, as we all know. And it's going to be the battle between Alpha Man and Zeta Man. Two characters based off of the same character, Zeta Man. Close allies to their real-life counterparts. Alpha Man is an ally of Pro. Zeta Man is an ally of Anti-Man. And we're not talking just the parody, we're talking Zeta Man is also the ally of real-life Anti-Man. So, things to consider with these characters. They bring some interesting things to the table. So we're going to go and lay it all out on Friday, and you guys will be able to see a very, very interesting clash.